I bought these 26 Sony Cybershot digital cameras from a government liquidation auction. They're all exactly the same model. They use the same battery. So what we're gonna do is actually sort them into a working pile, which is good, and a non-working pile, which is a camera I'm gonna have to take a little bit more time to see if I can diagnose and fix the problem. And my target on these, since they're all untested, is gonna be at least a 50% working rate. So let's hope that of these 26 cameras, at least 13 are working. And anything more than that will just be gravy. I don't know what got into me. Normally I don't buy such high quantities of individual units because sometimes it can take a while to sell. But I have a pretty long history of selling the Sony DSC-H55, and I know that I should be able to sell most of these within the next couple months. I get the cameras from a variety of sources. Like I said, in this case, this was a school liquidation. So most of these cameras do have some wear. They are all untested, and they're all the Sony DSC-H55, which is a pretty small portable digicam that Sony released in 2010. And this camera, when it was released, was $250. And now, in good working condition, depending on what's included, you'll see this sell on websites like eBay in the United States for in the $50 to $100 range. So I've got some placards here. We have one with issues and a little sad face, and I'm going to go ahead and put that one over here. So any camera that has issues that isn't working and is going to require some additional time, we're going to go ahead and put in this issues pile. And the second one is working cameras. So these cameras are ready to go after testing. All of the cameras that we have will be in one of these two piles. Okay, and in this little container here, I have a bunch of this battery, which is the Sony NP-BG1 battery. And that's the type of battery that this camera uses, as well as a bunch of other Sony Cybershot models that Sony made throughout the years. They use the same exact battery. So the testing process for this is literally going to be to put in the battery and put in a memory card. In this case, I've got a 1 gig card. This camera actually is a little bit unique. It takes both SD cards as well as Memory Stick Pro Duo cards, which are a little bit thinner, and it was a Sony proprietary memory back during the memory card wars. If you were into cameras back then, you're probably well aware of all of the different types of memory floating around, from memory stick to SD to compact flash to XD to smart media cards. There was a really wide variety of memory cards before SD and compact flash kind of took over everything. So this camera does power on, and what we're going to do when we test these, as always, if you've watched any of my videos, you know I like to test autofocus, and I like to test and make sure the flash is working, as well as to make sure there's no sensor issues which could cause problems with artifacts in the pictures taken. So we're going to go through all of that for all these models. We may speed it up a little bit because we have 26 of the same exact ones, but ultimately the goal, get as many into this working pile as possible. Let's go ahead and try taking a picture and see if the zoom works. So the zoom is just the toggle on the top here. So doing that will move the lens in and out. We're looking at lens noise. We're going to look at the lens glass and make sure there's no scratches. In this case, it looks good. Also going to make sure that there's no haze or mold visible inside of the glass. Depending on where and for how long this camera was stored and in what type of condition, all of that could end up being a factor. So the lens is moving in and out. Let's try taking a picture. The flash does fire. So this camera does appear to be in perfectly fine working condition. There is a darkish spot on the LCD. So you can see it right here. And that is just on the display. Super duper common for older Sony Cybershot cameras. But I will go ahead and check all of these cameras with output of the memory card on my computer and make sure that nothing is actually affecting the pictures taken. So this camera, the first one, is working, and it's going to go in the working pile. Okay, number 2, same obviously. Front of the camera has come loose a little bit from the housing. And that's generally an indicator that the camera was dropped. There is looks like a hairline crack right here. Doesn't necessarily mean that the camera won't work. And oftentimes, yeah, it's actually bent right here as well. Condition-related issues like that will certainly affect the value. Oh, there's a crack down by the Tripod mount too. This camera has quite a bit of wear, as you can tell. And it is not powering on, and I ended up trying 2 batteries. So this is the first dud of the lot. And we will go ahead and fortunately give it the badge, the issue camera badge. Okay, camera number 3. Battery out there. It does power on. Let's see where we go from there. Go to the menu. Flash fires. So this camera is also in working condition. So number 3 is going to go into the good pile. Whoop! Moving on. Another battery. Put the memory card in there. This one looks okay. Definitely has some wear. LCD wear, as you can see there. A lot of micro scratches. And when you buy lots like this, or when I buy lots like this, that's just something I expect with a camera that was used fairly often. Lens moves in and out fine. We've also got black spots on the LCD on this one as well. And it's really more apparent when you're looking at a very lightish background. If you're looking at a dark background, you probably won't even see it. So let's go ahead and try taking a picture, see if the flash fires. Yeah, flash works. So this camera is also in working condition. The autofocus is working well. And we'll just get it cleaned up a little bit. But that is 3. Number 4 is going in the working pile. Okay, another one. Another one, like I'm surprised that it's anything different than a Sony DSC-H55. The Sony DSC-H55, when it was released, was marketed as kind of an intermediate, just below the Sony DSC-HX5 camera, and proved to be pretty popular with people that travel a lot, that wanted a little more optical range. And you got to remember, 2010 was back in the days way before there was good cameras on smartphones. Those were in the days of just around BlackBerry ending its dominance. And if you remember taking pictures on Blackberries, very low quality. Camera power's on. But anyway, getting back to the story of what I was going to say, is this camera was directly competing with the Panasonic DMC Lumix ZS5 and ZS7 cameras, as well as Nikon's Coolpix S8000, S8100. Casio had a few in there. And then the Canon PowerShot. This camera actually has quite good low light performance for its price point, and the built-in flash is actually pretty decent. Apart from that, it's kind of, if you look at like DP Review and some camera ranking websites, if you compare it directly to its competition during that period, it's right in the ballpark, in the average to a little bit above average range. So this camera is certainly still functional in the year 2024, and I've sold, let's see, 20 or 25 of these in the last year and a half. So in the last 7 years, I've sold 22,000 cameras, lenses, and camcorders on websites like eBay and Amazon. And because of that, I've built up a pretty good awareness of where to buy, what not to buy, what brands not to buy. There's certain brands I don't even buy. And that's because the overall success rate that I have whenever I'm actually testing them is low enough that it just doesn't make sense anymore. Testing the lens. The lens is moving in and out fine. Okay, let's try taking a picture. Flash fires. So this guy definitely has some wear to the screen, the LCD. I'll get the lens cleaned up a little bit. And this camera is in working condition. So 5 cameras in, we've got 4 out of 5 working cameras. Pretty unexpected. Coming up next, another Sony DSC-H55. Well, surprise, surprise. Okay, first thing I noticed with this one is we do have a memory card, but the blue ejector button in the right here that will hold the battery in and eject the battery whenever you push on it is no longer there. So whenever I put the battery in, it doesn't stay in, right? It just comes out. So fortunately, the battery door itself, assuming the battery door is functional, will hold the battery in just fine, and the camera performance won't be affected. But let me show you what it's supposed to look like in one of these working Sony DSC-H50s. So we compare, we'll pull the battery off of this one, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Whenever I put it in, there's this blue latch right here, and the battery stays in, and then the battery door acts as just kind of a little safety valve in case something does happen to that latch. Power's on. Okay, lens looks good. Just get it cleaned up a little bit. Not seeing any issues with lens glass scratches, which is really nice. Sometimes when you get these longer range optical zoom cameras like this, even though it's only 10x, given that the lens is moving in and out so much, there's a lot more opportunity to cause lens issues as well as lens scratches on the glass. So I haven't encountered that so far, and that is good. So we've got an E6212 error on this camera. Let me go ahead and format the memory card, and we'll do a camera reset and see if we can figure out what's going on with that error. Uh-oh. Okay, we've got an issue with this camera. So the lens actually isn't doing anything when you press the lens zoom. And I hear a little bit of a noise whenever I'm pressing that lens zoom. And the E6212 error flashed up again. So unfortunately this camera's not working. I'll go ahead and put it in the parts section and see if I can get it into working condition later. But given that it's got the battery latch issue, it's not going to be super valuable regardless. So we've got two now, two in the not working issues pile. We've got 6, and this is number 7. How you doing, number 7? Boy, I'm going to have a lot of NP-BG1 batteries after this. If they're not swollen and they appear to be in good shape, a lot of the times the charge that are left on these batteries isn't great. However, if you charge them to as much full power as they can get to, they can still take dozens of pictures. And sometimes they're still fully functional after all these years. If the battery is swollen or has other issues, I'll just discard it. This one powers on. I'm not seeing any errors, and the lens is actually working. So let's go ahead and try taking a picture and see if this camera works. It is. Nice. Picture looks good. This one's actually probably in one of the better, probably in the best shape of any of the cameras that we've tested so far. We'll put that in the working pile. And this is camera number 8. Pull out the battery. There is some wear on the front cover here, on the blades right there. And it's probably from being in a bag and just kind of moving around. But let's see if it powers on. It does. Lens moves out. That looks good. There is a few darkish spots on the LCD. I've seen that on a few of these models. Yep. Lens glass needs some cleaning, but looks good otherwise. So this camera is also in working condition. What do we got here? We've got 1, 2, 3, 6 working, 2 not working. Good ratio so far. Oh, this one's got a memory card. Boy, I'm gonna have so many batteries after this. Condition-wise, looks decent. Lens moves in and out fine. We've got another darkish spot on the bottom of the LCD. But that looks good. Let's go ahead and take a picture. Doop. Picture, please. There we go. So this one is also in working condition. And the autofocus is working well. Lens is moving fine. We'll just get that cleaned up a little bit. And call that a win. It's got a Sony memory card. All right, number 10. This one has quite a bit more scratches to the LCD, especially towards the top there. Wait. Go ahead and put in the Sony memory card. And given the age of this camera, you definitely want to try to stick with a smaller sized memory card. Lens moves in and out. Looks good, looks good. And it's kind of cool to do so many of the same camera because I'm used to knowing and looking at exactly what potential problems might be. So you kind of get into a flow state, if you will. Hard to believe in the camera world, in the camera reselling world, that you get into a flow state. But when I go from model to model, especially from camcorder to camera to lens, it's a little bit hard to adjust going from such a wide variety of models and types of cameras and lenses. So to do the same thing over and over again certainly is speedier. Now, we've got a problem with this camera. So we do have the darkest spot on the LCD. And we also have, when you fully zoom in and you're looking at a lightish background, a small spot towards the center here. And that actually appears to be dust in the sensor because it's really only visible as I'm zoomed all the way out. So what can happen over time is this has a fairly small sensor and a very small piece of dust can get in there. And whenever you zoom out, that dust particle becomes more and more visible. Very common in Panasonic, for example. That's why I don't buy a lot of Panasonic anymore in this vintage, in the 2008, 2012 vintage, because of that very problem. And there are ways to fix that sometimes without having to do a complete camera teardown. But I'm going to go ahead and put this in the not working pile, even though it does take pictures. There is the black spot in the pictures that is visible. So we've got 3 now in the non-working pile. Okay, next up, another memory card. We do not have a regular SD card in here. We've got a 8 gig SanDisk Memory Stick Pro Duo. And that's the difference between the two here. It's a completely different type of card, if you're not familiar with it. But this actually takes both. LCD has pretty heavy scratches. It does power on. And the lens cover gets stuck, so that's why it looks black. So we've got lens cover stuck there. And let's take a look at that. So often, this is exactly what we're talking about before, why the lens glass can get scratches, is if there's an impact on the front of the lens, it can actually cause the lens cover to get stuck and be abrasive against the front lens glass. So I don't see that happened, I didn't see that happened in this case. However, let me try turning it on and turning it off. So when you turn it off, it also gets stuck. So this camera is working, but does have the lens cover issue. And that should be an issue that I ought to be able to get resolved with a little bit of work. And I'll go ahead and do that later. But for now, I'm going to put it in the not working pile. And because these aren't made anymore, the Memory Stick Pro Duo cards, they actually have a little bit of value standalone too. So you'd be looking at in the $8 to $10 range for this little card, even though it was made a long time ago. So we've got 4 not working, we've got 7 working. So that must mean we're on camera 12. Camera 12. Well, lo and behold, it's another Sony DSC-H55. Hopefully it works. Yeah, lens glass looks good, just a little bit of dust. Lens moves in and out. That's a nice thing about Sony's compared to, like, say, Canon PowerShots, is the lens noise generally on Sony is quite a bit less. So this guy is also in working condition. Autofocus is working well. And we will put that in the working pile. Wee-hee. Okay, next up. One of my favorite Sony cameras of all time is the Sony DSC RX100, which is a really cool, pretty compact form factor camera that Sony last made in the Sony RX100 7, and I believe that has a 1-inch sensor as well. And I've actually done a video on the comparison between all the different models of the Sony RX100. It has some cool features, and it's a really great street photography camera. Certainly more expensive. You're looking at anywhere from, in the used market, $250 to $800 depending on the model. But if you're looking for a compact, everyday street camera, the Sony RX100 is a really, really solid choice. And I used the Sony RX100 II for a number of years and took some really great pictures with it. That's probably one of my favorite Sony cameras of all time, is the RX100. A little bit of lens noise when we're moving in and out. Also has some black spots on the LCD. So the darker spot is down here, right about there, just on the display. So this camera is also in working condition, and more on the fair side. So a camera like this I would probably sell for, so I just turned it off and the lens got stuck out. So that's not supposed to happen. It's supposed to fully retract. So let's go ahead and power it on. Turn the power on and off again. So the lens is getting stuck when it's moving in and out. Yeah, it's getting stuck right in there. Okay, it just turned off again. So I will actually take that back. This is not in working condition. I'll put it in the parts section. We'll see if we can get that working later. But right now, fortunately, do I have to frown every time I put one in the issues section? Now we've got 5 in the issues section. Okay. You know what was pretty interesting back then is what all of the camera brands really competed on was like the sweet panorama mode. So you take a picture, you try to more or less leave the camera in a fixed horizontal location and just pan. And it created and stitched kind of a panorama shot together. So a lot of these brands really marketed panorama hard. Power's on. At least all these cameras for the most part are powering on, except for one. There's a little bit of dust inside the lens, and there are a lot of dark spots. So let's take a look at what I'm talking about. So quite a few dark spots on the LCD throughout. Let's try taking a picture. Flash fires. So there is some dust in the lens, and that happens with age and time, and generally doesn't affect the picture quality. However, if there's haze or mold, depending on the light and the light refractions, that can affect the picture quality, but I'm not seeing that in this case. There are a lot of black spots on the LCD, but this camera is tested and working, and it would be on the lower end of that range. I would probably list a camera like this on eBay for like 40 to 45, versus a really good condition you would get probably in the $70 to $75 range. So this one's going to go in working. If we're talking about one of the first Sony cameras that I ever used, I actually have the same model here. And it looks kind of similar, but it's actually a 6 megapixel camera. And this is a Sony DSC-W50 that also uses the Memory Stick Pro Duo card. And the same battery, actually. So this is kind of like a prior generation with a more limited optical zoom that came out 4 or 5 years before these cameras did. And I really loved using this camera. Has a little bit of lens noise, not super fast, not super sharp, but good old Sony DSC-W50 and W55. Neat little camera. Brings back memories. I just got this one in stock and just thought I'd bring it out since all we're covering right now is Sony's. So we have 9 working, 5 not working. Okay, no card on that one. Some wear on the tripod mount, and a lot of times that's just going to be the circle here. So wear there. Don't see any cracks like some of the models we've seen before. Flip it to Intelligent Auto, turn it on. Power's on. Glass looks good, just get it cleaned up. Lens moves in and out. LCD actually looks quite good. Let's go and try testing the flash and the autofocus. Okay. And from power on to first flash use, sometimes there's a little bit of delay as that flash has to charge up. Flash fires. LCD's got some wear. But this camera is also in working condition. Moving on up, moving on up. Okay, camera looks good. Whee! Let's turn it on. Uh-oh. So we've got a screen with just a bunch of blue and yellow and green pixelated lines. So we've got some major issue going on with this camera, and it's not doing anything else. So this is definitely going in that parts section. And this is probably a camera I'm not going to be able to get into working condition, unfortunately. Sad face. We have 9 cameras left. We've got 9 cameras left. Oh no! Look at that one. Oy, oy. Look at the dent there. This might have been dropped like this. Woo! From what distance, I don't know. I don't have high hopes for this. The chances of this working are basically minute. The lens housing itself is actually bent underneath the camera right here. So it may power on, but the lens isn't going to do anything. Tries. So this one's going in the parts section as well, and this is likely a camera that will not be able to get into working condition. 8 cameras left. Okay, we got a swollen battery here. So whenever a battery gets stuck in there, it's a little swole, and it's not a battery that I'm going to charge or use. Huh, I didn't realize it had that little thumb. There's a little thumb pad right there for convenience, and it is kind of comfortable, actually. Never noticed that. Good job, Sony, with your thumb pad. Lots of waiting. Okay, there we go. Flash fires. And that looks good. Lens itself looks good. We'll get that cleaned up. And we'll put that in the working pile. Working pile is growing. 7 cameras left. The battery pile. The battery pile is just... Look at this. This is all batteries we've taken out so far. Look at all those batteries. All of these batteries are from the cameras that we've taken out so far. And some of those won't charge properly, but some of them will. And I try to use everything as much as I can in recycling both the cameras and the accessories they originally came with. Because a brand new aftermarket battery, a single battery cost is generally in the $5 to $6 range. That helps out whenever I'm testing. LCD's got a little bit of darker spots, lens is moving in and out, a little bit of dust internally, but otherwise looks fine. Let's go ahead and try taking a picture. You can do it! Yeah? Yeah? Yeah. Okay, so that works good. Okay. 6 cameras left. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 working. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 not working. So we hit our target of 13 working cameras. Let's see if we can get any more than that. A lot of the times the untested cameras that I buy don't have batteries because they've just been lost. Okay, I just turned it on. It did a screen flicker thing. And we've got some issues. So potential motherboard issue. There's something going on with the circuitry inside that is causing that. Maybe a connection between the LCD and the camera. So this will unfortunately go in the parts section. Hopefully I didn't jinx myself. All right, 5 cameras left. Thank you as always for watching these videos. I really do appreciate it. Just kind of giving you a glimpse as to what I do every day anyway, and the fact that so many of you are engaged and coming along for the ride, it really does mean a lot. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button down there. Let me know in the comments if there's any other types of videos you'd like to see, and I'll just try to keep cranking these out. Okay, this guy is in good shape. And we will add it to our working pile. Haha, we got to 14 at least. Haha! Ugh, 4 left. Alright, that looks good as well. Autofocus is working, and picture turned out good. Thank you kindly, sir. You will go into your new home of the working pile. 3 cameras left. Choo! Alright. Flip it into Intelligent Auto. You know what's cool about this lot so far is almost everything that I think should be working based on its cosmetic condition is working, apart from just a handful. Okay, hopefully this works, and it does, and autofocus is working well. Get the lens glass cleaned up, and we'll call that one another win. Okay, 2 cameras left. See if we end with a bang or a whimper. 2 cameras. Okay, LCD's got some wear. It does power on. Okay. Pretty heavy scratches actually on the LCD. So you can actually see them when the camera's on. That means it's deep enough. And the flash fires. So this one's in okay working condition. And we'll add this second to last camera to the working pile. Last camera, the last dab. Sony DSC-H55, the last of them. And I probably won't have to buy any more DSC-H55s for a while. Pretty well stocked. Okay. This one has a crack on the top by the bezel, right there, barely visible. And the buttons are super sticky, like don't even work. So I'll probably have to try the alcohol trick and leave it overnight and, oh, no, that was the top. The top button's working, the bottom's not. Oh, barely. You just have to mash on it. So I'll try to get this one into working condition, but the center button is super sticky too. And it looks like the lens is actually stuck. So whenever I gently touch the very front of the lens cover here, it should be able to retract just very easily, and it's really, really stuck. So this camera has not only the sticky button issue, but a sticky lens problem too. And that is gonna go in the not working pile. So from those 26 cameras, we've got 17 working Sony Cybershots and 9 not working. So we were able to get to and get over that hump of 13, and I've got a lot of listing to do. I'll probably list maybe on average one of these a week or one every couple days. Normally my prices are pretty aggressive, so the cameras that I list sell relatively quickly. So hopefully I'll be able to list and sell 1 or 2 of these a week. And they'll last a couple months, and we'll move through this lot that way. Check out my unboxing series here. It actually incorporates all of the videos that I've ever done unboxing wise, so if you've missed any or you haven't watched any yet, make sure you check them out. A glimpse into what I really enjoy doing, which is buying large untested lots. Always appreciate your viewership. We'll see you in the next one.